Hey, folks, fellow blabbers, and others watching and listening to the show. What you're watching here is the recording of the audio podcast, Airline Pilot Guy, and this episode happens to be 220.5. What is that noise?
That's Mrs. Nev's mum phoning up.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking, am I hearing things or what? Anyway, so this is part of the ambiance of a live show. So you're watching us record the audio podcast. This is what we're calling a feedback extra. It's not the normal show if you're new to the Airline Pilot Guy show. This is a little bit different. The normal co-hosts of the show are not available today, and I have a couple APG community members who have graciously volunteered their time and their beautiful faces and their wonderful voices to help me out recording the show. And we're going to emphasize, trying to knock out as much feedback as possible because we get a ton of feedback on the show. And we want to make sure that we do it right and make sure everybody's questions are answered to the best of our ability. And so with that, without further ado, let me make sure that I'm actually still recording the audio over here. I am. Okay, without further ado, let's start the show. It's going to be a really, really good show. Airline Pilot Guy. Nope, hang on. Got to get my soundboard. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 220.5.
Flight 209, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger. LA, good morning. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 539 in the Hyatt Regency in downtown Miami, Florida. In this episode, a drunk U.S. Air Marshal, a Delta flight attendant arrested for stealing nearly 1,500 mini liquor bottles. Well, that and much more, including your great feedback. So get all settled in, seatbacks and tray tables in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 220.5 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I am Jeff Nielsen, also known as Captain Jeff. I'm the senior captain here at the APG. And hosting today's show, and joining me from, I've already forgotten where, in Ontario, California, we have APG community member, professional flight attendant, and also podcast host. He's going to tell us about that in a second. Tyler Herrick.
Good afternoon, evening, noon, night, wherever you're at. How we doing?
Fantastic, and great to have you joining us at the very last minute, Tyler. Always good to see you and hear from you. And also joining us from across the pond, somewhere in the UK, he's going to tell us exactly where, Mr. Neville.
Yeah,
Bound.
hi, Jeff. Very nice to see you, and thanks for inviting me on. Yes, I'm just 40 miles to the northwest of London in the county of Buckinghamshire. And it's just gone 7:30 in the evening, and it's still light. And we've got the first signs of summer, I think, finally. So looking forward to that.
Wow. So probably one of the first times that Nev has actually been on or has witnessed the Airline Pilot Guy show when there's actually daylight.
That's about right, actually. But yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for, again, both of you joining me to try to knock out some of this feedback today. So let me start off by saying that, before we do that, Tyler, let's make sure we get a plug in for your podcast, just because Tyler's in the middle of a layover right now, and he is going to be leaving us at some point because he's got to get ready for his day of flying. Where are you going to be flying today?
We are going off back to the mothership, Dallas-Fort Worth International, and then we go up to Hartford, Connecticut. I've never been up there. So we're doing
I go in there.
We're doing a little transcon with a stop in Dallas. So headed up there, and it's an honor to be here with you guys. But podcast, just started it out. You can visit us on talkitoutpod.net. It is a current events podcast. And the whole premise of it is that it's live and interactive. So you, the listener, decides the content, and you let us know what you want us to talk about. It's me and 3 other friends, and we talk about it.
Excellent. So it's a lot easier to do show prep, doesn't
Sure
it?
does.
Okay. And I kind of do the same kind of thing, except that I just get a bunch of feedback from you all, and then that is what forms my show. Talk a little bit about news and the aviation world, specifically focusing mostly on the airline world, but we talk about other things as well. So now I'd like to talk about something that happened just this past weekend. Right now is, what day is today? Thursday? The 26th of May. Well, back on Sunday, whatever day that was, I was I picked up a trip last minute and had a layover in Columbus, Ohio, CMH, Charlie Mike Hotel. And I put out a tweet and Facebook post and something on Slack and all the other social channels saying, hey, I'm going to be there. I'm going to go over to this place called Barley's Brewing Company, very close to where we stay in Columbus. And if you happen to live in the area and you happen to see this tweet and it's convenient for you, why don't you come over there and let's have a little meetup. And so James Balk, you've you know James. He's been at other meetups in the past, and I've met up with him a couple times now. He was able to make it. And then let's see, Jennifer and her husband. It's Brian, isn't it? Jennifer, your husband. They both joined us at Barley's Brewing, and it was good seeing you, Jennifer. She's in the live chat room right now. And we were just about to leave. We were settling up the check, and I was starting to pack up all the podcasting equipment. And a gentleman named Steve Jones, and I apologize, I've forgotten what Steve's. Maybe Jennifer can remind me. Steve's wife. They both work for NetJets. I hope I'm allowed to say that, and that which is headquartered there in Columbus. And they came in and joined us, and we got to talk with them for a bit. And he said that he's a new listener, or they're a new listener to the show. And they gave me a gift of like a necklace, and it had Buckeyes and beads and stuff like that on it. Well, Buckeyes, for those of you who live in states, know that Ohio is known as the Buckeye State. And apparently it's some kind of a nut that is like the most poisonous nut known to mankind or something, or at least in the United States. I don't know. So they gave me this nice little necklace. I don't have it with me. It's at home. So thank you, Steve Jones. And yeah, Jennifer doesn't remember his wife's name either. If you're listening, Mrs. Jones, I am terribly sorry. I'm kind of anyway. So thanks for that. Was a lot. That was a good time. So Jennifer, nice to meet you in person, and learned all about the lives and stuff of these people. So it's always cool to have these meetups. Speaking of meetups, we're going to have a UK meetup in Farnborough in the UK. I think that's to the southwest of London. Is that right, Nev? And that's in July. We're going to be there for sure, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. I think that's the end of the air show week, where they have the public access and displays and stuff. We do have media passes, the APG crew does, so we may be going to other days if we're allowed to. I'm not sure. I think we are. But I plan on going earlier in the week. We talked about on the last show getting a page set up on the APG site to kind of talk about our itineraries, when we're coming in, where we're staying, when we're going to have meetups, all that stuff. We are still working on that. We don't have that up yet at the airlinepilotguy.com site, but I'll let you know when we do, and then you'll have all that information available to you. Moving on, T-shirts. We just ended the first campaign of the Farnborough T-shirts, as well as the classic APG Acme Air shirts, and hopefully they're being printed as I speak and will be sent off in the post soon, and everybody who have ordered those things will get them soon, and then I'll let you know when we start a new campaign. And if you talked about Slack, if you want to join the perpetual chat room, please contact Hillel by tweeting him at Hillel, but don't use L's, use one. So it's HI11E1 on Twitter, and then he'll give you information about how you can join the Slack account. It's a lot of fun over there. And what else did I want to say? Oh, the very next day, by the way, Columbus, that meetup on Sunday night. The next day, I flew out of Columbus to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to West Palm Beach International. And on that flight, James was there. James, who was there for the meetup, he was also on my flight out of Columbus to Atlanta, and also from Atlanta all the way to West Palm Beach. And we had a couple hours in Atlanta. He was traveling with his mom, and we had a nice breakfast at the Atlanta International Airport. And thank you, James. Please thank your mom for the nice treat, the breakfast. That was very kind of her to do that. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we move on to the coffee fund?
No.
Just trying to get some administrative details out of the way before we move on to the news. So, okay, well, that means it's time to talk about the coffee fund.
Johnny, have some more coffee.
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the Java Jive, and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. All right, the Coffee Fund. That's your way to support the show in a financial way if you have the resources to do so. And many of you have, and we really, really appreciate it. And since the last show, we have contributions from Mark Van Ram and Steve Trumbull. So thank you guys for your very generous contributions to the show. And we also have a different way, or another way of contributing to the show, to become a patron via patreon.com. And since the last show, we don't have any new patrons, but that's okay. We have lots of patrons over there, and we appreciate it. Every episode, they give us a certain amount of money, and really keeps this thing going. So if you want to learn more about the Coffee Fund, what it's all about, how you can contribute, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And thank you to the Ink Spots, the Java Jive. And now it's time for news.
Stand by for news.
Okay, this from the standard.co.uk. I guess that's one of the newspapers over there in the UK.
Yes,
now.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I didn't really hear much about this, and this was actually posted quite some time ago, the 18th of May. I guess not that long ago, about 10 days ago. A U.S. air marshal has reportedly been removed from a passenger jet at Heathrow after he was found to be intoxicated. The man, who was said to be armed with his service weapon, was briefly detained by the Metropolitan Police officers before being released without charge. Police were called to a Los Angeles-bound plane at Terminal 2 on Monday after a United Airlines captain claimed a man was trying to board the Boeing 777 while under the influence of alcohol. And, of course, keeping up with the journalistic integrity, they have a picture, of course, of a 787 Dreamliner, not a 777. Does that surprise anybody?
No.
But at least they got one that said United on it.
That's good.
Got to give
They're
them
making a
props
step in
for
the right
that.
direction.
Yeah. And it's a kind of a big airplane. Not quite as big as a 777, but, they're getting there. Anyway, transatlantic flight 935, which was delayed by 2 hours due to the incident, was carrying up to 200. So who cares? A police spokesman told the Standard the man was breathalyzed and arrested, but later released with no further action. The spokesman said he could not confirm whether the man was a U.S. Marshal. So that's about it. They were called to arrest somebody. They took him off. They breathalyzed him. And then I don't know. Maybe some calls were made, some strings were pulled or something, but this guy was released, and that's it. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, that's kind of scary, though, huh? Isn't it, Tyler? I mean,
you travel
a lot.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we have friends on the aircraft a lot, and especially on those international flights. And to think one of them might be knocking back a few before they get on, it's not really comforting. But then again, we can't even confirm. So according to the government, we can't confirm whether this person was or not. So.
Well, it's quite possible that maybe this captain had a thing, against this air marshal and just wanted to make his life miserable. Pilot Pip makes the point, or maybe he was innocent. Okay, okay, Pip. You're kind of ruining everything by asserting that. But yeah, you're right. He could have been innocent. So who knows? In fact, I wasn't even thinking about talking about this, but since it was in my stack of news items, I decided to, because I'm lazy. Okay, leave me alone.
That's all right.
Pip. All right. Well, here's one. She may or may not be guilty. Okay, Pip. A Delta flight attendant has been charged with stealing nearly 1,500 mini bottles of liquor.
She's guilty
from her job. You can just tell by her picture. Oh, and because Tyler knows, because he probably doesn't. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm just kidding. Shelby County in Tennessee, District Attorney's Office said that the 28-year-old, I'm not going to say her name, has been indicted on charges including theft, unlawful sale of alcohol, and unauthorized transportation. Really, that's what they're most upset about. The revenuers didn't get their taxes on the sale of liquor, and apparently she was
$9 liquor. That's what it is.
So investigators said the bottles typically sell for about $8 on flights, but this lady was selling them for $1 a piece on Craigslist.
Wow,
brilliant. Do you know? Are you familiar with? Are you familiar with Craigslist, Neville? Do you have something like that over there in the UK?
No.
Yeah, that's a kind of a, what would you call that, Tyler? Kind of a garage sale, an online garage sale.
Yeah, pretty much. It's anything and everything. There's a lot of cars and clothes and human trafficking and crime and other things like that, but it's all on the internet. It's all good.
A lot of wholesome things going on there at Craigslist. No, there is some legitimate, a lot of legitimate.
There is legitimate. There's lots of legitimate things going on.
But anyway, so she steals 1,500 bottles and sells them for $1 on Craigslist, and I'm sure that she's incurring some kind of cost to mail them to the people that are buying them and that kind of thing, unless she's just meeting in a parking lot somewhere. But still, that seems like a lot of hassle for not that much money. I mean, even if she got $1 for each one of them, $1,500, and she's been doing it for quite some time. So
how long has she been a flight attendant? Does it say?
I don't think it says in this article.
Well, $1,500 is chump change for someone in her position if she's been a flight attendant for any amount of time.
Yeah,
I just don't see why. What's the deal? What's the point? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's common knowledge that there's people that do immoral things on the airplanes with the leftovers. But I mean, why take that much? I mean, was she taking them all at one time?
I think it was over a period of time.
Okay.
There was a pattern, and then I guess there was some suspicion.
Never leave a pattern.
Yes, you gotta change it up. So anyway,
that's just silly. We'll pray for her.
Yeah, she's not going to obviously be keeping her job at Delta, I'm sure, because of this, and she probably will have a criminal record. So it's just not. It wasn't worth $1,500.
Don't ruin your life over $1,500. That's the moral of the story.
3,000 maybe, but not 1,500. Just kidding. Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Third-class medical reform could get another chance of making it to a congressional vote via a defense funding bill that moved through the Senate's Armed Services Committee. This is a couple of weeks ago. The committee voted 23-3 in favor of the bill, which would authorize $602 billion for the Department of Defense and other national security programs. It includes, and this is why we're talking about this on the show, the pilot medical changes in the Pilot's Bill of Rights 2, which would exempt private pilots flying light general aviation aircraft from the current requirement for a third-class medical. Now, I know that there are some of you listening to the show, and I apologize, I don't remember who keeps sending me stuff regarding this third-class medical requirement for like light sports aircraft, that kind of thing. So it looks like you're going to get your wish, sir, that they are, it looks like it has a pretty good chance of making it through and passing. And so it looks, I think the deal is that basically whatever is required to get a driver's license is good enough to fly like light sport aircraft. I don't know all the details about this, so don't quote me on that. But and then also kind of associated with that is a proposal to change general aviation flight training. The FAA has opened comments until August 10th for changes to the GA flight training rules. Every time I see GA, I think the state of Georgia, because that's the abbreviation for Georgia. A lot of stuff going on in Georgia. The GA flight training rules that would affect a broad spectrum of pilots, including those pursuing private and commercial certificates. In its notice of proposed rulemaking, a long-anticipated proposal to use glass cockpit fixed gear aircraft for commercial flight training instead of traditional complex aircraft with retractable gear. The FAA states in the NPRM the update to the definition of a technically advanced airplane to include those with primary and multifunction flight displays and integrated two-axis autopilots, which would encompass the features that are now standard in most new single-engine piston airplanes like the Cirrus aircraft and others. So basically they're saying the flight training industry was kind of saying to the FAA that legacy complex airplanes have become outdated and difficult to maintain. But they were having to use them and maintain them because the rules said that to get some of these licenses, I think they're talking, or certificates for like commercial ratings and that kind of thing, required the use of these complex airplanes. And so now looks like they're going to try to change the definition of what a complex airplane is and what is required. So no longer do you have to, if this passes, you won't have to rent an airplane with retractable gear, and you can use an airplane with the glass cockpit instruments and that kind of stuff. Also, proposed changes would lift restrictions on flight instructing. Light sport pilots would be able to use training hours provided by a sport pilot-only instructor toward a private pilot certificate. In addition, instrument-only flight instructors would not need category and class ratings on their CFI certificates to provide instrument training, which would clarify legal questions that have been brought to the FAA. Anyway, I'll have links to these two stories in the show notes. Any comments from either of you regarding the changes proposed to the third-class medical or the definition of complex airplanes?
I'm a bit ignorant on that subject and definitely not qualified to comment, I'm afraid, Jeff.
I am too, but I just sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I'm actually just reading stuff. But I know a lot of people that are listening to this show are commercial or general aviation pilots, and this stuff is really important to them. And so I thought it was worth mentioning, and then I'll put a link there and you can find out all the details regarding that. Here's something that we can all identify with. I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes to love me. Is that the right lyrics? Did I do that right?
Pretty good.
Passengers screamed, climbed on the seats. Catherine Moreau says she has 3 scratches from the tarantula, which may have looked like the one pictured here. You can't see it, but use your imagination. A species which entomologists say is a very common species in the Dominican Republic. Oh, there you go. Tyler is putting the picture for those of you in the chat room. And we're looking at the picture on the left side, not the one on the right. The right one is the actual lady who was scratched by the tarantula. And she was on a flight. Let's see, what flight was this? a Montreal-bound Air Transat flight from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, on April 18th. And apparently somebody had a couple of these tarantulas in their carry-on baggage, and they decided to take a little walk and stretch their legs, all 16 of them.
Sir, those tarantulas are going to have to go in the overhead bin before takeoff. Okay.
I think that's probably where it was to begin with, and probably dropped down. Well, anyway, regardless, she said that there was something like a wire brushing against her leg, and she kind of brushed it away. It started tickling her again. That's when she noticed it was a tarantula, and then that's when all the screaming began, and people started standing on their seats.
I would have loved to have been on that flight.
That would have been fun. So finally, some brave person, managed to capture the two tarantulas and get them taken away and away from the passengers, and all was well. Now, I understand that, I'm not an entomologist myself, but I understand that tarantulas do bite, but they don't really have they either don't have any venom, or if they do have a little bit of venom, it's not very powerful. So it's not like you can die from a tarantula spider bite. My knowledge base for tarantulas is from the movie Home Alone. Toward the end of the movie, there's a tarantula involved. I'm sure everybody's seen that movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. Okay. Anything
I was just going to say, Google says, although tarantulas are venomous and some bites can cause serious discomfort that might persist for several days, so far there is no record of a bite causing a human fatality. In general, the effects of bites of all kinds of tarantulas are not well known, which means there very well could be some tarantulas out there that are dangerous, but probably not those ones.
I had an encounter with a tarantula when I was driving with my mom from California to Atlanta. We were staying in Tucumcari, New Mexico, and that was interesting. Those are big spiders, big furry spiders, and even if you know that they probably can't kill you, they still are a little frightening. All right,
especially on a plane. Is that going to be the sequel now? Tarantulas on a plane?
Tarantulas on a plane. Yeah. Speaking of scary, this is kind of an interesting piece of information. One of the flight attendants on the Egypt Air Flight 804 that just recently crashed in the Mediterranean, back in September of 2014, so more than a year and a half ago. I don't want to do the math. What would that be, about 2.5 years ago? She posted a haunting image on her Facebook account, and it shows a female flight attendant in wet clothes pulling a suitcase out of the water, and then in the background it shows a plane plunging into the sea behind her. And so some people are going, that's interesting, but I don't think there's anything to this. I think that maybe somebody sent this to her and she thought that was kind of an amusing photo and decided to use it and post it on her Facebook account. I don't think it has anything to do with the crash and any conspiracy theories related to it, but who knows? As Pip likes to say, she may be innocent.
She may be innocent. Although ominous.
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird, though. I mean, you look at this thing.
It's weird. And everybody's connecting it with, I was just reading some comments as we were doing some other stuff. Everybody's connecting it to, the indications that they had in the lavatory and in the cockpit and things like that. So that's what the internet's saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Then it's got to be true. If the internet is saying that, it's got to be true. So we'll post a link to that in the show notes. You can look at this photo yourself and see what you think.
Only time will tell.
Yes. Okay. And then finally, we have, I need to find my sound effect. Drones. And vacuum cleaners. Okay. And this is serious. Police in the Basque Country region of northern Spain say that they have failed to find the owners of 3 drones that got in the way of a commercial flight landing at, is it Bilbao? How do you pronounce that?
Bilbao.
It's close enough to
Bilbao
Bilbao, so north of Spain.
Airport on
Maybe it's
Saturday.
Bilbao.
The captain of the
Bilbao,
Lufthansa
yeah.
flight. Go ahead. Were you saying something? No, you weren't. Okay. Edit point. The captain of the Lufthansa flight alerted ground control to the fact that the devices were operating inside protected airspace and flying at an altitude of 900 meters, which for those of us who don't understand meters is something just shy of 3,000 feet, which is way too high for a drone to be flying, in my opinion. The airplane was forced to dodge the drones to avoid a collision. And then it goes on to talk about some other incidents involving drones. And I guess they dispatched some regional police to try to find the operators of the drones. They sent out a helicopter to search for them. They were unable to locate the owners. No formal complaint has been filed. The search has been discontinued. The case now falls back to the Spanish Air Navigation Agency, which has powers over restricted areas near airports. It says that drones are banned from entering an 8-kilometer radius around airports, and they're also banned from flying over populated areas or ascending higher than 120 meters. So clearly, the operators of these drones were violating several regulations and rules, and could have been a serious problem if the airplane had hit them or any of them. So, as I've said so many times, I think it's just going to be a matter of time before one gets sucked up in an engine and may or may not be a catastrophic result.
Has there been any reported incidents yet, or confirmed reports of drones striking a
No,
passenger?
I think we had that one a few weeks back at Heathrow, but British Airways.
Right.
But I think that they determined that, they weren't able to determine conclusively that it was actually a drone. Some reports said it could have been a bat, but the pilots seemed to be pretty convinced that it was a drone that was hit, but I haven't heard any follow-up on that. Is he still in the chat room? Or any of them there in the UK? Maybe you've heard something to update that story. We would ask Nev, but Nev is gone. He apparently decided to take a break.
Mr. Nev disappeared. I think he was having bandwidth issues, so he.
I think Nev has gone to join
down.
Mrs. Nev watching some movie on Netflix. If you can't beat them, join them. So I unlock the seat.
That's great.
Case. Yes.
Speaking of drones, our friend Fred in the APG community, he's going to be in Phoenix doing some drone racing this weekend, and I just might be around to go meet up with him. So we'll let you know for sure
that's
if
awesome.
I do. But he messaged me on Twitter, and he's going to be at the Tempe Diablo Stadium racing drones
that's
this
so
weekend.
Cool. What do they call that? The first person view. They have these,
the VR, the virtual reality, or the actual. They've got those helmets. Yeah, they.
So it's like he's in this
really
drone,
sweet.
and he's actually. It feels like when he's controlling it that he's actually flying in it itself. That must be awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited if I'm able to. I got one day off, so I'm going to do my best to get over there. And
we'll have to do a on-location report over there, Tyler. Make sure you you take your microphone and record something. Okay.
Oh, you better believe it.
All right. Well, that's everything that I had in my news folder, and we haven't heard a lot of new information regarding the Egypt Air 804 incident. Although I think I'll just point out that I've said from the beginning of this that I don't know why everybody was jumping to terrorism immediately, and
that was a pretty quick jump, don't you think? I mean, we were talking about this a little bit on my podcast, and we were talking about how, it kind of seems silly that everything that's going on right now is just an immediate jump to terrorism. I understand that it's a sensitive subject, but it's almost as if I'm sure you remember American 587. When that one went down for a good period of time, they were convinced it was terrorism until, of course, they found out that it was mechanical. So I think it might be just the media kind of turning things into whatever they want them to be as usual. But that's just
the thing
my opinion.
that it has me scratching my head is that another that Russian flight that was a terrorist incident over the Sinai area of Egypt. At first, when that happened, the Egyptian governments were saying, officials were saying that it was absolutely not a terrorist-related thing. I mean, they were going completely the other way. And so that's why I thought, wow, why in this instance do they immediately go the other end of the spectrum and say, oh, yeah, it was definitely terrorism?
Do they know something that we don't?
Yeah, thank you.
I guess.
We're in business as well, actually. I think
could be innocent.
Captain Nick would approve of
Welcome
this
back, Neville.
beverage here. It's Battle of Britain Old Ale from my local
And what does this say?
Chiltern
About an
Brewery,
old
just
ale.
down the road. Yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
So I've
Was that
got
one
some
of
more.
those that you had taken to Orlando to give to me when we missed each other?
That's it.
Yes, let's do that. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll head over there this time, and then So great. Well, I think that's about it for the news, and let's get on with the feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
And in no particular order except chronological, we're going to start with CJ. He says, Captain Jeff, Miami Rig, Dr. Steph, Old Dot Pilot, Nev, and Tyler. Of course, he didn't say that because he had no idea that you two were going to be on the show. I don't know.
Well, he should have. So
what do you...
I mean, look, Neville's crying over here. I'm over here getting ready to leave.
So he says, so what do you think? Not much. Is this something you want to see in an airline cockpit someday, or is this another step towards taking pilots out of the airline cockpit? And this is from CJ, the C-130 pilot. And it's an article about the first success seen in a system designed to help aircraft automatically avoid mid-air collisions. Flight tests demonstrate optical sense and avoid capability that detects and tracks nearby aircraft, setting the stage for future manned and unmanned aircraft to autonomously steer clear of them. And so it shows a little diagram of a target aircraft and an unmanned air vehicle using this system that is associated, the research is associated with DARPA's Aircrew Labor in Cockpit Automation System. Aircrew Labor in Cockpit Automation System. That's an interesting... Oh, they had to come up with a way to spell out alias. That's why. It's kind of weird. The program recently conducted the first successful flight tests of a shoebox-sized plug-and-play system designed to enable manned and unmanned aircraft to automatically detect nearby aircraft and avoid potential mid-air collisions. And so I'm thinking, why don't we have all the unmanned aircraft out there have a system that would see and avoid airplanes that have, humans in them? And, I don't know why I have to be out there avoiding these things. It should be the responsibility of the unmanned drones or UAVs or UASs or whatever to do that, or maybe a coordinated effort. But anyway, I think that's definitely where we're headed, trying to kind of come up with a system that's lightweight and affordable to equip with, large drones, et cetera, to automatically steer away from manned flights.
I think
what do you think,
problem
Nev?
with this is that it's who's got the responsibility, really. I mean, if you're an aviator, your responsibility is to see and be seen, isn't it? And to keep a good lookout, especially in the terminal area around airports and that kind of thing. So I would say that this whole drone thing has skewed or may skew how things are seen in future. And it's quite interesting, isn't it, how the two types of airspace work, certainly in Europe, which is a very congested and politically congested airspace as well, where basically it's a military zone and the civil aviation guys are allowed to fly around it. compare that to the US, where it's very much civilian aviation, and if the military need a playground to go and practice some stuff, then it's allocated to them. So I'm wondering whether we're going to see over the next few years a sort of a redefining of airspace and who's allowed where and who has priority. Might be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely, it's going to be. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing something like this in the future. We just have to have something like this to prevent any disasters of mid-air collisions, whether they be with manned or unmanned or a combination of the two. Let's see. Speaking of drones, I should play my sound effect once again, shouldn't I? Russell sent in a link to this very cool article about something called a volocopter. And I'm going to go over here to Firefox and enter it into the address bar. And I'm going to play a little bit of this from Mashable.com. So watch the first certified drone helicopter hybrid flight. And let me know if you can hear this. I haven't played. It's not playing on my end either. Can you hear that? Okay. Volocopter. Dawn of a revolution.
Entstand die Idee.
And
Ein Jahr später flog einen
he said,
Testflug.
I don't know why you're putting that camera in my face.
2013 feierten wir die Weltpremiere des Volocopters mit den ersten unbemannten Flügen.
He's saying, I'm sick and tired of you poking that camera in my face.
Nach
Get
3
away
Jahren
from me.
Entwicklungsarbeit erhielten wir endlich die Zulassung.
Okay, it's in German. I have no idea what they're saying. Anyway, it's a very cool video, a YouTube video, and it is a very, very large vehicle that looks like a drone, except for it has like, I don't know how many propellers on it. It's like 18 separate rotors, and these rotors are like the propellers on them are like a couple feet in diameter. And guess what? It's a manned drone. So you can get into the seat or cockpit or whatever you want to call it and fly it around. I think it's a pretty cool idea, actually. It's very large, and it's called the Volocopter VC200. I have no idea if his plan is to sell it and for how much, but you should check out this video showing him do this test flight of this very large vehicle. And not sure exactly how long, what the endurance is on this thing. I can't imagine it would be very long. Somebody else is watching it right now. No, it's not.
It's
Tyler
not me.
putting his iPhone. Anyway, so it's very cool. You should check it out. It's a very futuristic looking cockpit with a little joystick controller in it, and yeah, it's pretty neat. Pretty neat.
And on a completely unrelated note, I just set up a GoFundMe account. The exact
How much is it? Did it
as
say?
that copter?
Oh.
No,
So you're just going to shoot for, I don't know,
but I need
20,000. I don't know. Yeah, I
should
don't
be
know.
enough, right?
So check out this link sent in by Russell Cooksey. Thank you, Russell, for sending that. This is something that I have designated as something that Rick would probably like to answer, so we're going to save that one. Troy from Hawaii sends in a quick message. Not sure if you have put this out before, but would you provide the instructions on where to go and how to join the live chat for the show? Okay, well, obviously he's not watching this live right now because he was asking how to do that. All you have to do is follow us on Twitter, APG Crew, and we have a Facebook page, Airline Pilot Guy. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to send out a push notification on the app. See, if Steph had been here, she would have said, Jeff, have you sent out a push notification on the APG apps? And I'd say, no. Would you help me with that? So I forgot to do that. Anyway, there are several different ways that you can follow us, and that's the best way to learn when we're going to be doing these shows live. And then once you go there, it really depends on whether we're using Google Hangouts on air or if we're using Blab. It's really easy with Blab. I think you have to sign in with your Twitter ID, right, guys?
They have a Facebook link now, or button as well. Where you
Okay,
can sign
so
with
if
your
you're
Facebook as
following
well.
us on Twitter and Facebook, then you obviously have Twitter and Facebook IDs, and then you just use that information to sign in to the chat on Blab, or if you're on Google, I think that you can use your either of those as well, right? Or your Google Plus ID, or is it just a okay? Yeah, I just it's been so long since I've signed up for either of them. I've forgotten exactly how you do it. But on Google Hangouts on Air, we use the YouTube page for that. And on the side of the YouTube page that we provide a link to, you'll see a chat going on over there. And so it's actually, I think it's pretty easy to figure all that out. So Troy in Hawaii, hopefully you're listening to this and you'll follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And then and if you need any help, trust me, all of our great community members will give you a hand so that you can join us. All right. I'm not going to talk about that one because I said I wasn't going to. Private Pilot Rich says, Captain Jeff and the fantastic APG team. Attached is an article about the need to train pilots with specific simulator training and aerodynamic stalls. It points out that the most simulators today cannot meet the new requirement to reflect an aircraft's handling characteristics of up to 10 degrees beyond the stall angle of attack for all aircraft. Can you comment if this new level of training is not being taught? No, it's not this new level, no. And for the old pilot, does this affect training at Acme Red? Again, right now, as far as we know, Private Pilot Rich, the simulators that we have today aren't capable of exhibiting these kind of extreme angles of attack and characteristics of an airplane that occur when you exceed these very, very critical angles of attack. In today's generation of simulators, I'm sure there are some out there that can do more than, but most airline simulators in use today basically can take you up to the actual stall or actually the approach to stall, and then basically the training tells us how to get out of it before it actually stalls. But I'm not sure if I've ever been in a simulator other than the Air Force training that I did that will actually, accurately portray what happens to a transport category airplane in a full stall and how to recover from that. Stick shaker, yeah, it'll if you continue to, and it depends on the situation, if it's an accelerated stall or a slow speed stall, whatever, when the stick shaker activation occurs, or if it doesn't occur, if you go right into the stall indication of the buffet of a stall before the stick shaker actually starts going off. But, yes, we do get those indications in the simulators that we use today. But that is not the same thing as actually going into the actual stall, especially a very high altitude stall, which seems to be the thing that seems to be killing lots of people in the last couple of decades, losing control of airplanes and going, into a full aerodynamic stall at a high altitude. And apparently the inability for many pilots to recover from it. And so it's definitely something that needs to be done. Apparently it's going to be a lot of money because as we've talked about in previous episodes, even if that data exists to plug into a computer, a simulator, it's going to be something that's going to be expensive to implement, and we're probably going to have to pay the companies that have gotten this data to give it up. And if they don't have the data, then they're going to have to somehow go up there and get the data, and then that's just going to be even more expensive. So the figures that the U.S. government, FAA, has proposed it will cost for the airlines is probably way lower than the actual cost is going to really be. But I know, even if it's going to be a huge cost, I'm a proponent of doing this kind of thing because we really need to see what it is like when you're actually, what the characteristic of the airplane you're flying is like when it actually gets into a stall. Could be a major safety thing. So
let's hope the airlines don't push back.
Well, they're going to.
Too hard
they're
on
going to say, well, we're going to do educational programs, and because they don't want to spend the money if they don't need to or if they don't have to. But sometimes you just got to suck it up and do it. They're not going to do it on their own. I can tell
Right,
you that.
exactly.
Let's see. Okay, we've yeah.
They might do it out of your pocket.
I'm not. Jeff McFeeters sent in a link to a company developing laser blocking eyewear, and we've talked about that on previous shows. Carl Houghton did as well. I guess this is something in Flying Magazine relatively recently. So, but we've already talked about that on the show. Pretty cool. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be a practical thing that airlines are going to provide for their pilots or not. But haven't heard a lot about laser attacks in recent times. So I don't know if that means that that's becoming a kind of an old thing to do, or they just got tired of reporting them.
Well, there's too much other news going on,
on.
isn't it? There's a presidential race probably going on.
Right. There are other things
occupying the news feed right now.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely.
I've got about T minus 5 minutes for me, unfortunately.
Okay. Very well. Well, if we just call her when you say I got to go, and then we'll say a proper goodbye. Ryan sent in a link to a YouTube video, and we'll put this link in there for you to watch as well. He says he thought that we would like, especially Captain Nick, to watch this video detailing the Airbus ROPS, the Runway Overrun Protection System. And so we'll definitely put that link in the show notes, Ryan. Thanks for giving us that information. Doug Betts, I don't know if this is still valid anymore or not, but there was a fellow pilot, he says, that he said the APG community might consider helping out a fellow. You know, actually, I think when I looked at this a few days ago, it looks like they've reached their GoFundMe goal. So I'm going to skip that and move on. Sorry. And this one is going to be something that, okay, I can answer this one. This is from Father Kyle Schnippel, who, by the way, is the new co-host of the Catholic Drinky podcast. Sarah Vabulous, a good friend of mine and fellow co-host of another show I used to do, Catholic Weekend, started her own show called the Catholic Drinky, and she talks about, as you can imagine, beer. She's a home brewer, and wine and spirits and all kinds of different things, along with other things that don't specifically have to do with drinks. And Father Kyle has joined her on the show, and they've done a few shows since he's joined as co-host. And it's an awesome show. You should check it out, even if you're not Catholic. But thanks for sending this in, Father. He says, okay, I know those long haul guys get all the fancy dancy questions. So this one is for good old Captain Jeff. Well, thank you, Father. Flying back from Atlanta, the flight was delayed as you diagnosed. Oh, I saw Father Kyle, or actually I think I read something like a tweet or something. He said his flight was delayed. And so I kind of said, I think this might be what the problem is. So he says, flying back from Atlanta, the flight was delayed as you diagnosed because the crew was delayed coming in. They landed, walked across the concourse, and boarded our plane, and we pushed back shortly thereafter. After all the necessary checks, I'm quite sure. Yes. In a previous assignment, I had to travel back and forth between churches quite frequently, and sometimes forgot which church I was actually saying Mass in. Oops. Do you have any tips or tricks that you use to keep track of your flight number, especially when you're on your third flight for the day? Okay, so the way we do that is we take a piece of paper and we fold it up, and we on our well, if you're flying an airplane that has a yoke, a control yoke, we put the under the center of the yoke, there's like a little clipboard, like a miniature clipboard, where you can clip things under. And most of us will, if we don't have something that's already pre-printed, sometimes I'll actually take the time to print out something. The software that I use for my bidding allows me to print out these trip sheets, we call them, where the flight number's on there and a bunch of different frequencies that you might use for tower, ground control, company ramp frequency, company operations, etc. As well as some en route frequency information, and then it prints out like 4 flights on a page, and then I just fold them into quarters and slip it underneath my little yoke clipboard. But if I've forgotten to do that, which happens more times than not, I'll just take a piece of paper and, fold it so that it fits in that little area. And I write my flight number down. And that helps me remember the flight number when we're actually performing the flight. And then it's amazing how quickly I forget my flight number as soon as the flight is over and we're walking through the concourse and we're calling up the people to pick us up. And they go, what flight are you? And I go, and you look at the other guy and he goes, I don't remember. We had to pull out our little trip sheets or our rotations out of our pocket and look at it. Oh, that's right. It was 1604. We've been saying that number for hours, and now for some reason, just minutes after we've arrived, we have completely forgotten what the number is. But that's, I guess, human nature. But that's the way we do it. And I guess some airplanes probably have a little thing that they can scroll. I think the 727 and a lot of the it's a Boeing
737 has that as well.
Like little numbers that you can, little wheels that you can change the digits and on your little, where your thumb would go on the control yoke. I'm not sure what they do on the Airbuses. I flew
with a pilot who put sticky notes all over the flight deck.
Really?
Yeah, sticky notes, everything he needed. I'm not kidding. Everything he needed to remember, he had sticky notes everywhere. I mean, I kid you not. One of them was like, stop at TGI Fridays, get a sandwich. The other one was like flight number. It's so funny. Yeah, so we put a sticky note on the door that said, call us if you need to come out.
That's funny. I remember flying with guys that when I was a co-pilot, that on their headset, like their telex headset or whatever, would be plugged in. The wire would be running over, up and down and into the little, socket that you stick it in. But on their headset itself, they'd have like the big giant orange, tabs or labels or big giant things on them, like fluorescent orange, so that they wouldn't forget to grab their headset before they left the airplane and went to a different airplane. I've seen all kinds of crazy things. And have I ever, forgotten to remove something from the airplane and lost it? Yes, I have many times. Expensive sunglasses usually are the things that I lose the most. So that's why I don't have any expensive sunglasses anymore.
Yeah.
I lost a sweater this week. So if anybody's flying around on a Super 80 out of Dallas, Texas, and you find a gray sweater, let me know. Okay. It's in the cabin somewhere.
All right. Well, Tyler, why don't you head out of here?
Well, I do have to get going. I'm really sorry, but it was an honor.
It was great that you were able to join us.
Appreciate you letting me come on and talk with you guys.
Tell us again your podcast.
Short little hour. Oh yeah, it's a Talk It Out podcast. You can check us out. We're on iTunes. We have an RSS and talkitoutpod.net. I'll post the link one more time in the chat room. And appreciate you guys. I'll for sure listen to the rest of this on my commute flight home.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice to hear from you, Tyler.
All right, Tyler. Have a good flight.
Speak soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Safe travels.
Right, I'm just gonna... Okay, take care, man. All right. He's gone. He's gone. Oh, my. Okay. How's the bandwidth holding up here? He was kind of breaking up a little bit. And I'm not sure if it was his or mine.
Yeah, he was. But seems to be okay now, Jeff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone in the chat room. We're not ignoring you. We're just trying to concentrate on the stuff at hand. Okay, great. Let's continue. This is probably something best to talk about when Miami Rick rejoins us, so I'll skip that one. Liz is still with us in the chat room. She sent in a link to an article. Hang on, let me go over here to Firefox. This thing keeps jumping up and down in my dock, and it's just driving me nuts. It's distracting me. It's from this this Mashable website with the Volocopter. Okay. Leave me, please. Thank you. All right. Liz sent in a link to this article about a father and son co-pilot on a commercial flight. They worked the flight together decades after an adorable photograph. And they include a photograph of them at present time on Thomson Airways. The father was the captain, the son, the co-pilot on Thomson Airways flight something. I don't think they put that in there. Anyway, it was on the 12th of April, and it was from London Gatwick to Cancun, Mexico. During the flight, Richard, the father, announced to passengers that it was a special day for him as he was flying with his son. So, very cool article. I'll let you read all about it and some of the great pictures there. And apparently, it was, I don't see the photo right now, but I guess there must have been a photo of them when the boy was much, much younger, a picture taken with his dad. And so now they have a more modern version of father and son together. That would be cool to be able to fly with one of my kids. Of course, they have no desire whatsoever to fly airplanes, and that's okay. All right. This is from D21776 at luckymail.com. Who is that? That's all it says. Hey, Captain Jeff, I'm with you. No man that is not psychotic should willingly let anyone jam harpoons in his arm, butt, or anywhere else. This must have something to do with something we were discussing on our previous show, and needles. And I said that I'm not particularly fond of people poking needles in my arm or elsewhere. So thank you for that. Probably should not have read that one. Okay. Ham Radio Jim sent in an article from the New York Times, and this was back on, April 18th, so more than a month ago. It was an article, as I said, in New York Times about plenty of passengers, but where are the pilots? And again, it's an article about the pilot shortage, so check for that in the show notes. Kirk writes, hello to the resourceful Captain Jeff, Miami Wiki Rick, the old curmudgeon, and the wonderful Dr. Steph. My name is Kirk, and I'm a flight instructor from that cold place up north called Canada, near Edmonton, and a longtime listener for about the past year and a half. I've just decided to share the feedback world. Share in the feedback world. There are two things I would really like to bring up with you today, so I do apologize for the somewhat lengthy feedback. First, I came across this link from the Aviation Herald. It seems as though those nasty drones may have finally come in contact with an airliner. And I think he's probably referring to that incident of recent time where the British Airways 320 actually collided with we think may have collided with a drone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's still debatable, isn't it? We'll wait for the AIAIB report, Accident Investigation Bureau. But the last bit of news we had was they thought it might be a plastic bag.
Yeah, that's the last thing that I'd seen from it as well. We were talking about that earlier, but when you dropped out, and I said I was going to ask Nev about that because you happen to be in the UK, and it's more likely that that news is going to be covered locally, but you haven't heard anything about it either since then.
No, it's gone very quiet. And I think because, as I was saying earlier, because there's a lot of other news stuff going on here. We've got this European referendum coming up in just under a month's time. So that the news wires are packed full of a load of other stuff. So anything which was aviation related or doesn't sound that interesting, it just is not making it to air at the moment.
Now, if that drone had actually taken the airplane down, then we'd be talking about it. Yeah, you're right. It's much more sensational to talk about, Airbuses that are crashing and things that are going in the political sphere, right? Nothing politically is happening over here in the States, though. It's pretty boring.
It's interesting. I mean, the last thing I want to talk about is politics, but it will be very interesting, won't it, to fast forward to the end of this year, and gosh. It could be a completely different story in both countries, possibly in the UK and the US.
Yep, things could be significantly different by the end of the year. Okay, he goes on. Secondly, the question I have for you all. I'm not exactly sure your experience with the business sides of things, but I figured I would give it a go. Maybe a guest host for another future episode. Being a father of 2 wonderful kids and a wife helping to raise them at home, I can't help but wonder what kinds of sacrifices I would have to make breaking into the airline world with respect to pay. I'm a full-time employee with the provincial government here in Alberta, as well as a part-time Class 3 flight instructor. Based on initial training pay and flying first officer for another couple of years, I'd be taking an almost $90,000 pay cut, thus forcing my wife back to work and hiring someone to raise my 2 beauties. Therefore, an idea is born. I've decided to chase after the dream as a competitive aerobatic pilot and hoping to fly the air races one day. I'm 26, still young, and devoted to my profession as a commercial pilot. I'm willing to put in the effort necessary to make it to this level and am even considering purchasing a PITS for daily practice in the next couple of years. Wow. I've purchased a few texts on performing basic aerobatics as well as the theory behind them, but I can't help but notice that there really isn't much direction when attempting to venture into this side of the aviation world. Can anyone recommend a place to start? Maybe the old fart in the UK, with all his jet flying experience, can give me some pointers on what to expect. Well, the old fart's not with us, so if I remember a couple days from now, I'll ask him about this, and maybe he'll be able to say something about it. But anyway, Kirk continues. I appreciate all the hard work the 4 of you put into the podcast. It makes 2.5-hour drive 4 days a week go by so much better. And I can't wait for the next episode where the fact checkers make their cameo again. And we've had the fact checkers on a few times since you sent in this feedback, Kirk. I hope you appreciate that. I know that I do. Anyway, keep up the great work. You have reached out to so many people around the world, giving them a glimpse into the small community known as aviation. Keep the shiny side up, the greasy side down. And to sign off like all 4 of you in a few words, cheers, take care, and God bless y'all. Woohoo. Woohoo. Actually, put it capitalized. So, Kirk, I don't have any idea about how to go about learning about the world of being a competitive aerobatic pilot or an air race pilot. Perhaps somebody listening right now, listening to the show, may have some idea about a direction that you can take, or maybe a resource that they might be able to point you to. Nev, do you know anything about this world of competitive aerobatics? And
No, not at all, Jeff. I'm the straight and level guy, really. The prospect of that for me is quite horrific. But I think, there's a lot of good tuition locally to hear. And actually, one of the British Airways captains who's done very well in the Red Bull air races practices, which just seems like 30 nautical miles from my house, because you hear this meow noise at the weekend, and you think, yeah, that's him, isn't it? That's him again. So I've got nothing helpful to add, I'm afraid, Jeff. Sorry.
Hillel makes a good point. He's in the chat room with us. He says, go to air shows, especially the smaller ones. Yeah, go and start bending the ear of some of these people that are actually doing this for a living. That's a great idea, Hillel. JWOM154 says, every one of my landings is an exercise in aerobatics. Touche. Don't fly with this guy. Yeah, so right away, we've already gotten some responses from our great brain trust, the APG chat room. So, I'm sure we're going to hear some advice from people after listening to the show. I'm sure that we're going to have some places to point you to. So thanks, Kirk, for your kind words about the show, and good luck with your competitive aerobatics life. You'll have to let us know how that goes. Let's see. Paul writes in, Paul Baker in Seattle. In a recent episode, I enjoyed hearing about your favorite aviation movies. Captain Jeff said Airplane was one of his favorites, while Miami Rick said he liked one of the airport series. I thought I would share some trivia connected with these airline disaster movies. In the 1961 film The Crowded Sky, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. is a Navy pilot on a collision course with a passenger jet commanded by Dana Andrews. Years later, in Airport 75, the roles are reversed. Zimbalist is the pilot of a commercial jet involved in a midair crash with a private plane flown by Dana Andrews. Ooh, that's weird. But as far as I can tell, the very first of these kind of movies was the 1956 motion picture Julie, about a wife, Doris Day, who learns her husband, Louis Jordan, is a murderer who is intent on doing her in. She drives from her home in Carmel with her mean husband in hot pursuit. She manages to lose him just before she arrives at the San Francisco airport, where she buys a ticket on a transoceanic-bound 4-engine piston-driven passenger aircraft. She breathes a sigh of relief as the plane lifts off the runway, thinking she has left her spouse behind. Little does she know, he has booked the same flight and is seated a few rows behind her. Fast forwarding, the plot reveals that eventually, this is a spoiler alert, that eventually, somehow or another, the pilot and her husband are shot dead, leaving an airplane now desperately in need of a pilot. A reluctant Doris Day, because she has a background as a flight attendant, is convinced by frantic passengers that she must be the one to fly the airplane back to SFO, which she manages to do. The movie Airplane never fails to amuse me each time I see it. So it sounds like a really interesting film. I don't know if Mike Kuipers is with us today in the chat room, but Mike is quite a movie buff and knows a lot about these older movies. So maybe you can chime in if you're with us, Mike, about the motion picture in 1956, Julie. I'd never heard of it, but it looks like that might be one to search out. Where would one find that, I wonder? Online? Maybe YouTube. I bet YouTube probably has it.
Yeah.
So if I find, I'll do a search for that when I'm doing the show notes for this. And if I can find it, I'll put the link to it if it's out there. But I'd like to, I love Doris Day. She's a great actress. Or she was. He goes on, Mike Kuipers, I have Julie on DVD. I told you. Mike Kuipers is with us in the chat room, and this man has an amazing movie library. And so how was it, Mike? Was it a good movie? Sounds pretty interesting. Don Pre-Buy Guy says TCM Turner Classic Movies is another place that you might be able to find that. Very, very cool. Okay. He goes on and agreed, Captain Nick, The Right Stuff is an amazing film. Saw it the other evening on Netflix. First time since it was first shown in theaters back in the 1980s, and it was such a well-done motion picture. Well, that's about it. Thanks to all of you for all you do, and best wishes. All right. Moving on. This is from Tillman. Oh, by the way, this reminds me, Tillman had sent an email saying that, hey, I'll take that Farnborough ticket off your hands, and we're looking into that, Tillman, whether we can actually. I think it's pretty clear that the tickets that we've purchased are not refundable, and I'm not sure if they're transferable either. So we'll let you know. That might be something that we're just going to have to give away, and I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that yet. So for those of you wondering, I know that he was saying that he'd be interested in one of those 3 tickets that we have. So going on with this piece of feedback he sent in on the 19th of April. As usual, the Germans are way ahead of the game. Read this breaking news by news outlet Der Postillion. I did a rough translation as the original was published in German. In Berlin, the federal government has announced today that after 19 years, it would end the controversial chemtrail program for poisoning the general population. According to spokesperson Stefan Siebert, the reasons are rising costs and low efficiency of the stripes of chemicals that are often visible for hours in the sky. The government would not go as far as to call the program a failure, but the desired results could be achieved to the expected degree. After years of chemtrail output, the German population is still largely fertile. Soils are not contaminated with devastating levels of barium, as was hoped for, and the average temperature in Germany did not drop. Altogether, poisonous chemicals valued at approximately 310 billion euros have been sprayed. With ending the program, the federal government is following the long-standing recommendation of the German Federal Court of Auditors, which has criticized the program as inefficient. At its introduction in 1996 under Chancellor Helmut Kohl, the plan to use commercial airliners to spray chemicals over a large area was trend-setting. Over the last years, however, the efficient use of taxpayer money for this program has been questioned more and more. The Illuminati, as well as the U.S. government, have in the meantime confirmed the ending of the agreements about chemtrails in Germany. The German federal government has announced that it would concentrate on more traditional and more cost-efficient ways to poison the population in the future, such as vaccinations and contaminated food. It will take until the end of the month until the rest of the poison stored in the basement of the Department of the Environment is used up. After that, jets flying over Germany will leave nothing but exhaust contrails in the sky for the first time in almost 20 years. And he has a link to this very important, very serious, and not funny and satire at all. He said, P.S. Did you know that Der Postillon, I guess in German I was trying to pronounce it with a French accent, but I guess if it was German, would it be Postillon? Was it actually the sister publication of The Onion? Oh, wait a minute. The Onion. That is one of those satire magazines and websites. So what is he saying, that this whole thing was a joke? Wow. Oh, well. Thank you, Tillman.
If I can just interrupt
Please
you,
do.
Jeff, as you're in full flow there. I've just, although the Evernote isn't quite working for me, so I find it quite difficult to follow along with some of the feedback. I'm just having a look through the feedback. And of course, this is the first time I've actually seen all of your feedback from you guys in the chat room. And the quality of it is fantastic. I'm really impressed. I just didn't really know what to expect just scrolling through it. And it is really fantastic. And it's not surprising that, the guys take so long to get through it, because all of them have been so well written, and they deserve a high quality response as well. But I just had to say how impressive it is.
Yeah,
really
isn't
fantastic.
it amazing? I mean, you're absolutely right. And the other amazing thing is the volume of it. As you can see right now, I'm scrolling, and the scrolling position is about maybe a quarter of the way from the top. And I've been talking for how long now, trying to knock out feedback.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of gives you an idea of the sheer volume that we have with this feedback. But again, we do appreciate it. We don't encourage any. Well, occasionally I do encourage you not to send any, but I really don't mean it. But again, that's the reason why, unfortunately, we've finally reached this point with the show that we can't actually cover everyone's. But I'm doing my darndest to try to do it. But I think it's a losing battle. But please don't let that, dissuade you from sending in feedback, because it might be something that we think is important to express and answer for the whole community. This is one that I said we were going to cover on the last show, and we didn't get around to it. I'm just now recognizing it. And it was from Diane. And she says, my fiance does his pre-flight walk around counterclockwise. His left eye is his dominant eye, and while swimming, he breathes from the left side. He is a very meticulous and safe guy. I haven't seen him do a pre-flight at work, but I see how he is at the house, and I assure you he is safe. My question is it problematic to go clockwise? I heard that some captains criticize him for this, saying, she means counterclockwise. The captains say that clockwise is the way to go. Is there any reason for this? Is the vantage point different? Thank you. Diane. Well, Diane, I have good news for you. I think that when the aircraft manufacturers kind of create these flow patterns, especially the flow pattern around the walk around, the exterior inspection of the airplane, they just pick a traditional and customary way to do it. And in most cases, it starts with right outside the front door of the airplane, or the somewhere near the nose of the aircraft. And then it proceeds along. I guess if you're looking at the airplane from above, as a bird would, it is in a clockwise fashion around the right side of the airplane, the right wing, the right main landing gear, the engines, if they're on the wing or mounted on the tail, around the back, up again the left side, and then the left wing, and all the stuff involved with that. And, basically the same things that you're looking for on the right side, you're looking for on the left side. And then you end at a point where you started. I do remember that on the 727, it said a note in our manuals that you don't have to start it in any particular place. You just have to end it, at the point you started it. So you make a complete circuit around. Of course, that makes sense, right? You want to make sure that you're inspecting everything that you need to, and make sure that the airplane is airworthy. For instance, on the 727, we had rear air stairs. So sometimes it was convenient to start the walk around in the back at the air stairs and then end the walk around again at the air stairs. Now, the reason why on the airplane that I fly, we start the exterior inspection at the very front of the airplane is where on the left side on the Mad Dog, where there's a panel, a communication panel, where the tug driver plugs in his headset. It's also inside there where there's a little switch that turns on the exterior inspection lights in the wheel wells. So we have to make sure that that switch is on, so that when we're doing our inspection, we make sure that the lights are working and we can inspect the interiors of the wheel wells. And then when we come back around, we end it there because we want to turn that switch off so we don't burn out the bulbs. It could be different on various airplanes, but that's essentially the way the system works. And you know what I've been doing? If you look at my manual and the way they say to do the walk around, I do it a little bit different as far as when I get around the main gear. I look at the main gear at a point before where it says I'm supposed to be looking at it, but it doesn't really matter as long as I'm looking at it and I don't skip it. That's the point. So to answer your question, no, it's not problematic at all doing it in the opposite direction. Although I can say that most pilots are very, traditional and like things to go a certain way. And some might object to your husband doing it in a different manner, but you know what? It doesn't matter. That's all I can say about that. And maybe somebody else out there might have a different opinion about this, but I don't think that it's going to be a different perspective coming at it from a counterclockwise direction or a clockwise direction, because you're looking for the same things. So that's my answer. And if Captain Nick and Miami Rick and Dr. Steph have a different answer, well, they're not here, so sorry. Let's see. Continuing on. Who is this that's sending this in? Matt Moranto is sending me a link regarding airports and going green.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth. We're going green.
It's from aviation.about.com. Eco-friendly airports. So if you want to check out the 6 eco-friendly airports, check out this link. See the way I get through this feedback really quickly? It's just check out the link. Let's see. This looks like it's a little bit. Oh, you know what? This is a good one. Hi, Captain Jeff and crew. This is from Chris. Hope all is well. I hope you're coming back to Innovations in Flight at the Udvar-Hazy Center in June. I'm not sure we're going to be able to make it or not. Maybe. Once again, I'll be there. I know that several of the APG community members will be there, so check it out. Once again, I'll be there static displaying a glider and some of my flying photography. So, hey, Hillel and Micah make sure you find Chris. He'll have his glider there. I hope this time we can meet in person, talk planes, and go hang out at dinner afterwards. On APG 213, y'all talked about blown tires on takeoff and departure. As I listened, I thought the subject might be a good one to raise your engagement of international listeners, as YouTube hold a very informative video on the subject. Okay, this YouTube link is a Danish language video, and it has subtitles with the Royal Danish Air Force, and they describe in detail this pilot's controlled ejection from an F-16 that was badly damaged on launch. A controlled ejection indicates the aircraft was made as safe as possible, and the pilot deliberately ejected at a chosen point near search and rescue assets. Uncontrolled ejections are more spur of the moment and unplanned. The video is worth a look at, and it is a good debrief with actual gun camera and sensor footage. To synopsize the event, the interviewee is a Hunter II and RDAF frontline F-16 pilot, and flying as fragged he would have been in the first element of a 4-ship flight. On takeoff, he applies afterburners and accelerates down the runway. I guess he actually applied afterburner. There's only one on the F-16. Accelerates down the runway. He accelerates to V1 and pitches to climb. Right at the transition, his left main tire blows. The tire carcass flies off the hub and sheds enough debris that the Hunters 3 and 4, the others in the flight, rejected their takeoff, leaving a 2-ship to work the problem. So it was a 4-ship formation. The 3rd and 4th element of the formation rejected their takeoffs because of all the debris on the runway. And so that leaves the first 2 in this flight, including the one that had the problem with the left main tire blowing. What becomes immediately clear is that the aircraft has been damaged severely, but not critically inside the cockpit. The cause indicators are lighting up and blaring with plenty of fuel and a working engine. The pilot opts to continue flying, study the situation a bit more. Good job here, he says. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Yeah, the airplane's flying, got lots of fuel. There's no reason to rush through a decision. Hunter 1 comes over and sees what he is. Hunter 1, I guess the lead, comes over and sees what he sees is startling. The left main wheel, drag, brace, assembly, and retractor are hanging in the slipstream and have turned the main wheel in the wind. Risk of a safe landing is now through the roof. The flight contacts ops, and it's quickly apparent that a support network reaching all the way back to the Lockheed plant in Fort Worth, Texas, is needed. Questions start rolling in. Should he eject? Not just yet. The aircraft's still flyable, but the damage means he should fly at VFC. In other words, a speed that the airplane's controllable. Can he land as is? No. Too much metal below the wheel contact the plane. Hard to know how the plane will react. So they elect to do a controlled ejection. Can he eject at a weapons range? No. He can't positively ensure that the plane will fly to a certain ground point. Now they decide the ejection is going to take place over water. Lockheed asks him to roll inverted and pull G's to see if the wheel collapses. That doesn't work. So water ejection it is. In the remainder of the video, the pilot talks about the preparations, the actual ejection event, and the recovery celebration aspects. Even controlled ejections can lead to severe injury. Thankfully, our subject has only some minor bruises and a cool story about how he earned a famed, or is it infamous, Martin Baker tie. I'm sure that Captain Nick would have something to say about that. The Martin Baker is a good British company, right, that manufactures these ejection seats.
There is actually a Martin Baker association. So all the guys that have ejected and have survived that all get together every, 12 months or whatever it is for a dinner. And this is obviously going back over many years. But I think that there's still that.
So apparently you get a free tie from Martin Baker. And but I would not advise ejecting so you could get a Martin Baker tie. because they are very, very these seats are propelled by rockets, and as Chris mentions in this piece of feedback, even a controlled ejection can be a very dangerous one, and so luckily the story had a happy ending, except that of course they lost an F-16, but nobody was hurt on the ground. And Chris is from the Washington D.C. area, so thank you, Chris, for that. Again, I did watch this video. It's very interesting. A lot of, as he says, a lot of gun photo, what do they call that? Video, etc., where you can see the ejection take place. Let's see. Who is this from? So usually I do a little bit more prep work, and I actually put the name Oja or Oha, OJA. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And I've not listened to this, so here we go. I'm going to play this piece of feedback.
Hi, Captain Jeff and all the skilled team at APG headquarters. It's Jules.
Oh,
here
Jules.
Again from down under.
Okay.
This time getting an important message through to all about the effects of Murphy's Law on all airplane operations. I have been analysing crash comics for many years now, and I was stunned how crews reacted to a situation such as a confusing failure of the primary flight display and how they reacted. Both pilots were so shocked that this was happening to them that they could not release their minds from the trapped situation and return to stabilise flight. Why were they doing this? I asked in awe. I then came up with an idea that could trigger the crew's minds out of that stunned mullet situation. This I did by incorporating a little guy called Little Murphy into the situation. In effect, this extra awareness factor would improve reaction times if crews were aware of it. And how, from my experience, how he really works, and how the little guy Murphy, as depicted in a safety course I attended many moons ago, sits on your shoulders watching everything you do. And he's just waiting to throw the spanner in the works, as they say. He usually likes to make things difficult for aviators by being as effective and distracting as he can. It's up to us aviators to catch him early enough before things hit the fan and the situation becomes uncontrollable. Most aviators don't really think about Murphy the way I do. They think of such thing as a Swiss cheese model where the holes line up, but the skill lies, as we know, to stop too many holes lining up so we can arrest the situation for the good of all and save the day. I have been reading crash comics, as I have mentioned, for a long time, and have found that most aviation incidents and accidents could have been prevented, except for, of course, serious mechanical problems that a pilot could not control. In all the other situations, it seems that usually it's an after-takeoff accident or landing accident due to a lack of vigilance or alertness, not being able to think outside the square. And last but not least, undeveloped cockpit resource management skills. Incidents during cruise were rare, except for cross-feeding the wrong tank. Kids in the cockpit and a first officer was joining the childish behaviour instead of thinking of his airplane systems. And that the autopilot disconnected by moving the control yoke, not monitoring the developing situation adequately and not thinking about little Murphy. Other cruise incidents involved clear air turbulence or a malfunctioning autopilot. Incidents resulted because of the shock syndrome coming on, thus delaying the disconnection of the autopilot, but lucky enough to pull it out of the dive. Other incidents were on the climb when a thrust reverser light came on, but they adopted a she'll be right, mate philosophy instead of thinking of Murphy and what he could throw at you. As the light came on, the train of thought, as we understand Murphy's principle now, was to think that one hole had been passed through in the Swiss model, and that if the thrust reverser actuated, then the situation could become irreversible. Again, Murphy got his way because it was an engine type that used a reversing hydraulic valve, not a pneumatic system. A hydraulic valve can instantly become faulty. It probably leaked before it failed completely, and that's why the light came on momentarily and went out. Murphy got them eventually with a lack of height to recover. It's difficult to say if they knew about the characteristics of the thrust reverser system, but if they knew, they would have shut down the engine down immediately, or maybe could have reduced the power setting first. Uncertainty about the particular airplane system and how it operates, thus not enough quick thinking to solve the situation quick enough, especially when the airplane is descending and banking out of control. In this instance, we may ask, how does little Murphy that's creating a disturbance look over your shoulders come into the situation? Firstly, if both crew members know Murphy is always there trying to create a disturbance, then they will be alerted to react quicker and think ahead, because the presence of Murphy and what he can do is in their subconscious, thus allowing the arrest of the potentially damaging situation quicker before more holes line up, as in the Swiss cheese model. If it's a captain flying and the first officer is not flying, and the captain inadvertently say loses control after takeoff, then the first officer should correct the situation with enough assertiveness to assist the captain and arrest the developing uncontrollable situation early enough. You'll be alerted quicker to the situation and then take action quicker if you're aware of Murphy. A bit like someone alerting you of the fact that you are just about to step on a very ripe banana. With your awareness that Murphy is there always, it will make the crew member more efficient and effective. Another example would be, okay, you're conducting a walk around. If you're aware that Murphy is there and you're closing a cargo door and making sure the latches are securely shut, all is good, and usually you would not check them again. But knowing about Murphy and the way he operates and the resulting implications that would come into effect if that cargo door came open in flight, you would turn back and check it again. If you were thinking about Murphy, just to be safe and sure. Another scenario would be you're checking the fuel load or entering information into the FMS. Just a quick recheck while you're entering the digits could save more problems, especially if they happen at the wrong time. Last but not least, the tower controller says to line up on the runway, being aware of what Murphy could do, like an airplane flaring on top of you. If you were there for longer than a minute, you would be prompted to remind him that you're still lined up and waiting for a takeoff clearance. As you can see, guys, you can become a safer crew member if you're aware of Murphy. And this principle will save your day many times over, not only in aviation, but in everyday life. The only catch is for this principle to work very efficiently is to know your airplane systems perfectly and not to be stressed or tired because little Murphy works the best on you and is most efficient in ruining more than just your day when you don't understand how your airplane works, and especially when you're stressed or overtired. He's waiting for you to make a critical error. Anyhow, guys, I hope that you have learned how Murphy really works and how to stop those Swiss cheese holes lining up. Don't forget about little Murphy and his law. If something can happen, it will, especially if you're not aware of little Murphy. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thank you, Jules. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about anything that can go wrong, will go wrong, and just thinking of this little character, little Murphy, always there. And some people may say, "Oh, well, that's ridiculous," but I can see the value in that kind of line of thinking, and I guess it's the antidote to complacency.
Yeah, definitely, Jeff. And I think that certainly in the aviation world, there have been many accidents and incidents caused by hasty reactions to situations, which have then led into further difficulties, like a aircraft running out of fuel because the landing gear light's not working properly or something like that. And I think with in the world of where we all operate, whether it's at work or home or whatever, if you can just take a bit more time to think about things and just, as Captain Nick might say, sit on your hands for a little bit longer and think about the consequences and think about what could happen. And if we just take something, take a little bit longer to do something, that will save us some difficulty. But it's always there. And of course, if only we could rewind the tape, if only we could say, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I could have done that differently. And that happens every day, doesn't it? With everything we do. And it's a pressure of maybe commercial pressure, maybe time pressure, but any kind of pressure leads to hasty decisions or incorrect decisions.
And it's, as you mentioned, it's not, necessarily specifically related to operating an airplane. It can be operating your car. It can be operating power equipment in your workshop or your power equipment in your lawn. There's so many things that we, don't take into consideration what could possibly happen. And very good point. Thank you, Jules, from Down Under. Somebody sent in a photo. I don't know if you have this guy. This is maybe a U.S. thing. The guy's name is Bob Ross. He was a guy that would, it was like a public broadcasting television show where he'd go on and he'd start painting these images. And he had this very soothing, calm voice. And painting with Bob Ross. At least remembers. Okay. It's a meme from memecrunch.com. And he is painting, and it shows him his picture of this beautiful sky. It's just covered with contrails. He says, just put some happy little chemtrails right in there. Anyway,
correct.
Let's see. Continuing on. Oh, speaking of chemtrails, somebody who was this that sent this to me. Larry Gregory in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's a picture of a bald eagle streaking out of the sky, and behind it, its talons, you see some chemtrails. Yes. Great. Now the government has trained eagles to spread the chemtrails. I think it was just I don't know. Somebody must have photoshopped that. That's all I can think of. But, excuse me. My goodness. The beer is coming up. I'll have to definitely edit that out. All right. This is from, I'm going to skip a little bit. Well, you know what? I'll keep going here. Ted says, hello, Captain Jeff. My name is Ted Lin, and now I'm a student pilot for a Chinese regional airline, Xiamen, I think, Xiamen Airlines. 1 year ago, I went to Phoenix, Arizona for my flight training, and about 6 months ago, one of my instructors recommended me to listen to the APG show. From then on, I found myself loving the show a lot. Not only can I hear lots of interesting stories, but also practice my English. On February of this year, I finally got my commercial pilot license, went back to China, working on my ATPL now. For some reason, it's hard for me to get updates on the show. But anyway, I suddenly felt I should email you guys and say hello. Hello, Ted. Plus, during when I'm studying in Chinese version of aviation regulations and knowledge, I found that they're pretty similar, but somehow different. Like we all know in the States, your pilot license will never expire once you keep it current and do the flight review. But in China, after 6 years, our license expires, and I guess we have to apply again. Interesting, right? Yeah, it is interesting. Is that the way it is in the UK, Neville? I mean, is your license basically unlimited as long as you do certain things to keep it current?
Yeah, I think apart from the age restriction, and as long as you've got the Class 1 medical.
Okay. Yeah, I know that in our
yes.
country, for the to keep your flight instructor qualifications, that you have to take. I forgot what the cycle is, but there's a certain period of time that you have to take refresher courses and continue to take some tests to keep that currency. And then if you let it, if you don't do it, then you have to go back and do the whole thing over. I'm sure that, Pip is saying 5 years validity. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, I don't know, because I've never had the kind of certificate that required that kind of renewal. It's always been, once you had it, then that's it. And I've never had a certified flight instructor license, even though I was a flight instructor in the Air Force. The civilian certificates didn't apply, so it's kind of its own thing. Pip says that his airline transport pilot license is good for 5 years. So Pip, how do you? What do you do? Oh, it's just an exercise in paperwork to renew it. Okay, that's good. So you don't have to go through the whole process that you did to get there. That would be very discouraging to me. I'd say, forget it. I'm going to do a job where I don't have to do that every 5 years. Okay. So Ted continues, about to get my ATPL soon, and I believe in 4 or 5 months I will be able to fly a 737. Very excited about it. However, I will keep listening to the APG show and love to share anything interesting in my training and my further career. Thank you all for giving such a great show. Again, best regards from China, Ted. Nice job, Ted, on the English. I did correct, I changed some of the wording because I knew exactly what you were trying to say. And, if I had tried to speak or write in Chinese, it would never happen. It never happened. So I am very impressed. And I've mentioned this so many times before on the show. It's hard enough to learn how to fly in English, which is the language of aviation. I can't imagine learning to fly and at the same time learning a foreign language to do it. That's just beyond it's like mind blowing for me. I don't know.
I think it really, it's the same in the UK. We're very much a single language country, no matter how cosmopolitan the place is. But of course, so many of my European colleagues get exposed to the English language very, very young. I mean, they're teaching them at 2, 3, 4, 5. So a lot of them are multilingual or at least bilingual from very, very early on. Of course, it's so much difficult to learn the language later on in life.
Our capacity for learning languages, at least for most of us, really degrades after a certain number of years. I mean, that's why, children are so good at picking up language skills. But and then there are some adults that are just have that knack of languages, but I certainly don't. I have a tough time with English. Yeah. All right. Let's see. This is from YVR Blade Slapper. So YVR being Vancouver, I'm assuming, and Blade Slapper. Well, let's just read this just to make sure. I have a hunch that this is a helicopter pilot in the British Columbia area of Canada. Dear APG crew, a while back I noted with some interest that in response to the question as to favorite airports to fly into, both you and Captain Nick mentioned CYVR, which is Vancouver. As a commercial pilot based at Vancouver, I found this interesting and wondered if you ever read the book The Accidental Airway by Jim Spilsbury that gives the history of his Queen Charlotte airline that eventually became part of Canadian Pacific Airlines. A very humorous book that details the early days of coastal flying in Norsemen's and flying boats, and such as the famous Stranraer, as well as the history of YVR. A very humorous book. If you haven't read it, I haven't. I would highly recommend it. Many of the stories would make great fodder for episodes of Plain Tales, particularly the time Jim bounced a water landing and ended up in the cook shack of a floating logging camp. Interesting. I've been listening to the show for about a year now, and I love it. One problem, though, as a rotary wing pilot, I'm forced to listen to the show late at night under the covers with a flashlight in fear that my helicopter pilot brothers will find out that I've been listening to a group of stiff-wing jet jockeys doing what they do best, hangar flying. Any help you can provide me that will get me out from under the cover would be great. My wife is beginning to worry. Keep up the good work. Regards, YVR Blade Slapper. And that's as much information as he gives. We have no idea what his real name is. I can't even tell from his email address who this is, except for maybe Jim. So Jim, oh, no, he did. Wait a minute. No, he said that the author of that the Accidental Airway was Jim Spilsbury. But I think I figured out his first name is Jim. Have you read that book, Nev?
No, I haven't actually, no. And rotary operations, fascinate me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fascinated how anything like that can actually fly.
I think that I've never really kind of paid much attention, but the couple of times I've been in a helicopter and just see how they operate the controls, and I think, this thing should actually screw itself into the ground, shouldn't it, really? But somehow you put on bucket loads of power and the thing lifts off. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, I would think.
Yeah, I would like to, with somebody who is a very, very good helicopter pilot and instructor, so that it would be a safe thing. I would love to try my hand at trying to actually fly a helicopter and try to hover it. I understand that that's the hardest thing about flying a helicopter is being able to, coordinate everything and hover.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it would be a mess. Let me advance to some of the more recent information that we have here. Just to kind of keep it mixed up a little bit. A lot of this feedback is stuff that I don't want to tackle on my own. I'd kind of like to have Captain Nick and Rick and Steph help me answer because they might actually do a better job than myself. Hey, let's see what Fabian, I say, but I think it's Fabian. No, I think this is for Rick, so never mind. Martin Holmes from Durham, UK, says, just a quick message to say that I've just ordered my ticket at Farnborough and have ordered the APG Farnborough t-shirt too. I'll be posting a coffee fund contribution too to support your trip. Thank you, Martin. We did get that thing. We do appreciate that. Looking forward to meeting you all and getting the chance to say a big thanks for the great show in person. Take care, all of you. Martin Holmes in Durham. Very good. Thank you. We look forward to meeting you and everybody else over there. We're thrilled. It's getting closer and closer. Let's see. Liz says, I thought I'd send you some proper feedback. I thought it was about time I sent you some proper feedback rather than my usual practice of just forwarding you a zillion aviation-related news stories. I'm a pretty voracious reader, so I came across a lot of items. Please let me know if I'm overdoing it. No, Liz, I'll just ignore everything you sent me. No, I'm just kidding. The APG show has become a super enjoyable feature of my week. I love to watch the live recording and participating in the ever-entertaining chat room. I think she's there right now, in fact. You have some very witty, clever, and downright funny listeners. I always learn something from the show. Love that. I was fortunate to take early retirement after 35 years in the financial services industry in 2009. After initial concerns about how I would fill up my days, I found the time just flies by, and it's so great to be able to just spend a few hours reading or having a long lunch with friends, volunteering or walking my dog. Listening and watching APG is an essential component now. Although I have no professional connection with aviation, I've always loved looking at planes. I find the machines themselves just amazing and beautiful, and those of you who fly them have a real mystique. Well, thanks. We actually enjoy watching them and looking at them because we also believe that they're amazing and beautiful. A few years ago, the standard approaches to Toronto's Pearson International Airport were reworked, and despite the fact I live far from the actual airport, depending on the weather, a lot of planes now approach fairly low over my neighborhood. Many folks in this part of the city are not happy about this, but I have to say I'm certainly an exception, and I'm very happy to spend time in good weather in my back garden plane spotting. I don't mention this at local get-togethers. The neighbors would be very disapproving, I'm sure. One of the few things I miss about my previous work environment is the banter among my colleagues. The good-natured joshing amongst the APG crew has filled some of that gap for me. I love the boing, if I was Nick, Airbus back and forth between Rick and Nick especially. It's just so entertaining and amusing. Thanks. Yeah, I really miss it. Rick, come back. Well, enough for now, but a big thank you from me for all the work you put into putting together a great weekly show and for the great community that's formed around it. I've had the good fortune to meet Nick in person and hope that perhaps I can meet the rest of the crew and some other APGers at some point too. Keep up the great work and good health, clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds to you all. Liz Piper. Thank you, Liz. Is Liz still with us in the chat room? Yep, she's here. Okay, great.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Liz,
that's nice, isn't it?
Yes,
Lovely.
very nice. And I think that she basically speaks for many people, especially those who are right now in the live chat, the hardcore supporters of the show who make an effort to be with us and have the opportunity to be with us on a weekly basis in the live chat room. And it's a big part of our show, and it's a highlight of my week as well. So to you, we thank you, Liz, and everyone who have made this community such a great one.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And it's not until you actually take part in these shows, as I've been very lucky to do today, and you see all the stuff going on in the chat room, and it's such a fantastic distraction on the one hand. But I think especially where are we now? Nearly June. I mean, certainly this year that everything's just sort of come on a lot more, particularly on the social media side as well, and this is a great contribution to it, and that's why I think the blab works very nicely. I know you've had some issues with it previously, Jeff, but the instant chat on the blab is nice.
It is because when we do the Hangouts on air, it's delayed by about 25 seconds or so, and that really does cause kind of a disconnect. To be able to see people reacting to what you're saying immediately. And in the case of Pip, negative reactions immediately is for everybody except Pilot Pip. It's very encouraging to see everybody's comments. So thank you all for being there. Yeah, and I agree. Blab is that's why I'm giving it another shot today. Let's see if it will record the entire show. Okay, you know what? I mentioned Martin just a few emails ago. In Durham in the UK, and he sent us some audio feedback. So let's take a listen.
Hello, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, the old pilot.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save that one because the volume is a little bit low, and I can probably do something before I play it again to pump up the volume so we can all hear it. So I'll skip that one. Martin, if you're watching live, stay tuned. We'll get to it. I think that I'm going to go ahead and cut off the show because it's getting late for those of you in the UK. And I think that, I didn't obviously knock out all of our feedback. We still have quite a bit to go, but at least I made a little dent in it. And this will be a little bit easier in just 2 days. Again, Saturday morning, we're planning on recording the actual episode 221, this week's official episode. This is just an extra one. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to shoot for something around 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern time, which would be about noon, 1 o'clock Z time for those of you in your part of the world, Neville. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's we're what are
5 hours.
UTC +1 at the moment.
That's 5 hours from where we are in the East Coast of the States. And